Hello and welcome to everyone accompanying us in the newest episode of Pier-to-Pier Podcast, where we bring those who reside within the virtual worlds and the stories and knowledge that they carry. Tonight at the pier, I have somebody with an interesting story to tell, somebody that really wanted to come here to tell their story, to maybe, hopefully, connect with others who might be undergoing a similar situation to what they undergone, and hopefully, just maybe, reach out to that one person and perhaps even help them overcome their own struggles in life. Tonight at the pier, I have the honor of having Dark Desire. So, Dark Desire, welcome to the pier.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Now, I want to get straight to the point. I want you, first off, to give a little introduction about who you are to our lovely audience.
Well, nothing really much to go about me. Struggled with finding work, and so right now I'm at home, just learning how to do things from home. So will that be like DJing, making music, and focusing on those that are around me? You know, trying to help them out and building the community I have here on VR Chat.
So, you just specify that you had a rough upbringing. You undergone a lot of different struggles throughout your life. So, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what life was like before the start of your study.
Well, the first 3 years of my life, I don't obviously remember. Was all I was told that I was taken away from my biological mom when I was 3 years old. Me and my siblings were separated, and I was adopted in by my biological father and my stepmom. And a couple of years after that, I mean, things seemed to be going good. And then my stepmother had my two youngest half siblings, and I kind of feel like that's when things decided to go south. I was kind of pushed aside as a black sheep, so I acted out. I became a trouble child, and yeah, that went on for years of me being acting a fool and causing problems. I was sent out to residential treatment centers at the age of 12. Which that's a rough story, but hopefully it's able to help someone who's listening, you know, been through the same stuff as I've been. These programs are horrible places to be. Wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy.
So, what exactly led you to being sent to a residential treatment center? You said your family was casting you out, was treating you like a black sheep, and you snapped. So you just went on. You just like snapped on your own family. Like, what was the sequence of events that led to that decision?
I had a lot of anger issues. I was an angry kid. I lashed out on my family, and I just wasn't listening. I was very disobedient moving forward after my brothers were born. And realizing that I became the black sheep by nothing that I did mattered. Is what it felt like. So I decided just to have all these anger issues pent up, it just exploded. Obviously that wasn't the right decision for me to make, but you know, we all make mistakes.
So it's something that you truly and fully regret. Like, this was something that didn't came from your heart? Was this something that just was like in a spur of the moment? Because sometimes there's a lot of people that make certain decisions, certain moves without really like having an ill intent. Did you have an intent back then, or was that something that just was a spark of the moment for you?
Well, for me, it was more so. It was a spark of the moment, absolutely, and it was also. I was mad, and I've as a kid, I felt like that was the only way for me to express how I felt. Like I felt like that was the best way for me to express my emotions. Because I didn't know how else to. Being a kid, we don't really have those opportunity to have the what's the word called, the tools of coping skills of like utilizing, hey, instead of anger, lashing out at somebody, go write a letter and rip it up, this, that, or the other. I didn't know anything about that. So unfortunately, I did what I thought was best.
And how old were you when you were sent to the residential treatment center?
I was 12 years old.
Okay, so you were 12 years old. You were mad, you were angry. It was a spark of the moment, and your family sent you to this residential treatment center. I know those centers from what I've seen on the media, what is usually depicted there. But sometimes what's depicted on media or the news and whatnot doesn't tend to be the real image. I don't know how they work. I don't know how they function. So I want you to be our guide, and I want you to just teach us what does a typical day in a residential treatment center looks like.
Well, when I first arrived at the first program I was at, they put you in a locked cabin. It kind of was like it's a secluded little building that every first person goes to when they first arrive. They take away your clothes, they take away your personal items, they put you in scrubs so they can identify you if you decided to go AWOL, which happened a lot more than not, me myself included. And you were there for a few weeks, and then they moved you into a lodge, which that's when you kind of got all your stuff back, and that was approved. When it came to day-to-day activities, you're to participate in like groups, like one-on-ones, therapies. But when it came to like the torment of these places, the abuse that happens in these programs, the lack of caring from the staff, it's very much undescribable. Some days I wonder, like I'm shocked and baffled that I'm survived those programs. I'm very shocked that I've made it this far sometimes. And yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier, I will not wish my worst enemy to go to these places. They're horrible, horrible places to go to.
But these places should be for the betterment of people. Troubled childs who are, filled with pent up anger and they need to, get that down, like rehabilitate them. It should be a treatment center, for rehabilitation to allow them to return to the outside world, to be a better person. You didn't see that yourself at your experience, at your time there?
No, even now, especially with the first two programs I was in, absolutely not. The staff genuinely did not care. They witnessed so many things happen between the clients and the patients that were there, and just ended up not caring. I've seen them watch, clients fight each other, ruthlessly fight each other, and the staff would just sit there and not care. It did take the third program I was in to kind of kick me into gear. And I have one person to thank for that, and that was my therapist in the third program I was in. She knew that I was in these 2 additional programs, and she knew that I kind of halfway, just gave up through these programs and just, stopped caring. But she said something that has always stuck with me. Years later, it still sticks with me. She told me that she saw potential in me, and she hasn't seen that with a lot of other clients. And she wasn't going to allow me to throw my life away. She wasn't going to allow me to lie my way through the program. And, I really have her to thank for that. She helped me out a lot. When no one else was helping me, she was the one person to really care. And sometimes that's all it takes, is somebody to care. And it could be one person. Sometimes that's really all it takes.
You just need that one positive influence in your life to actually strive to make a positive change. That goes for everybody in every single circle. That is indeed true. What is concerning to me is that a center that should be for the betterment of people doesn't really encourage or its staff, who should be a reflection of the image of such a center, doesn't really try to help that sort of situation. I have read studies, especially from nut houses, where they tend to keep like the clinically insane. Sometimes they keep people who are not clinically insane locked up, even though they show signs of betterment, or there's even signs of mistreatment towards patients. Like, it's something that used to happen in the past. It's been happening for years. I want to say centuries, but I wouldn't believe that's something that should be for the youth. The youth is the future. They should be treated with some sort of respect and decency, to correct the evilness that, some of them might carry, and, have a better person come out than the one that entered it. But there's just, at this point, I would just like to ask, like, from your experience from this, what would be the difference? What would be the difference between this and juvie? Because, it kind of sounds the same to me. It's a center for newbies, for, the criminal youth. And they're usually kept locked up, and the staff doesn't care if they get better or not. They're just locked up. So is there a difference from what you experience in juvie? Or are they the same thing?
I will also say that I have also experienced with being in juvenile correctional facilities myself. So, no, to answer your question, there's no difference. There is no difference whatsoever. The only difference is you get put in handcuffs. The only difference is that you have to do a booking process. Other than that, the staff people don't care. And these programs are one by one getting shut down. The first program I was in is actually got shut down years ago, which made me happy. The unit I was in the third program I was at, got shut down. I don't know about the second program I was in. I do think that they changed a lot of the ownership when it came to the second program. So hopefully things have gotten better. And what baffles me about these programs is that they have a special units for kids with like severe autism. And it's sad because like the parents give up on these kids because they have autism, and it's, in their eyes, it's too much for them to handle. So it breaks my heart seeing that, because my son, he's 4 years old, and he has autism. I would never, ever send my kid there. It's such a these kids get picked on way more than I did because of their their mental health situation, and it's just it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart seeing these kids who are in reality some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, but also the most misunderstood. You know, because society deems them weird or like a freak or whatever, and it's because they have these extra mental health things, and it makes them different from the rest of us, and that's not very fair to these kids. It's not. And from someone who's trans femme myself, also who lives the alternative lifestyle of goth and has been an outcast myself, I get it. I could understand how it feels to feel like an outcast, how it feels to feel like the lone wolf. It's the reason why I'm here on this podcast, because I want to be that voice for someone if anybody is hurting and feels different, feels scared, it feels alone. Know that you're not alone. That's one thing I will say, you're not alone. There are so many other people out there that have been hurt and have feel the same way as you feel, and has sometimes been through similar situations as you. It does get better. It does. I was homeless after I got out of my program. The third program was I became homeless. I got into drugs. I got into alcohol. But look at, and it took years for me to get me on my feet. But here I am, 30 years old, got my own place, got a roof over my head, clothes on my back. I got cool friends, met some of the coolest people I've met here. I met Yoshiro. I met it gets better. That's what I'm trying to say. It gets better. The grass is always greener on the other side. And it is. It's very true. To those that are hurting, to those that are suffering, I'm here for you. And I'm sorry you're going through those things. But again, just realize that you're not alone.
That should be something that everybody should know. Nobody's alone. Whenever when we're at our darkest, at our deepest, at our lowest, we always we don't think about others. We usually enclose ourselves, and we just see ourselves surrounded by darkness. When in reality, there's always somebody out there looking out for ourselves. You never know. Even people you might not know are still trying to wish for the betterment of those people. But it's there are sometimes people that are at the lowest, and they just need that reaching hand, that somebody extending the hand to help them stand up, for them to see that they're truly not alone. Now, I want you, from your own experience, to tell our audience what do you wish people understood about mental health struggles? The things that people don't see. What are they?
Well, when it comes to like anxiety and depression, it really just, I wish people would understand that, especially when I have my anxiety attacks and my hands start to shake or I have trouble breathing. I wish people would understand that I'm not just doing it for show. I'm not doing it to get attention or whatever. It's when it comes to me, like when I get anxious, I will tap my leg or, shake my knee up and down. It's a thing that is done to actually calm the body down. It's for me to stimulate, so, my hand or my leg hitting something gently to distract my mind from whatever I'm anxious about. Like with the depression thing, people that are from someone like myself who suffers from chronic depression, I don't try and be sad all the time. I don't try to be depressed. People are like, oh yeah, smile, it gets better, oh this, that, or the other. When I'm in my darkest moments, it's not really what I want to hear. I want to just have someone there to listen. Someone there to listen to me and just sit there with me in silence sometimes. Because the physical comfort of someone is nice, it's sweet. And even if there's no words, sometimes that's the best thing you can do for someone is just sit there. That company is very nice. Like, from like again, someone that has depression and sometimes can express emotions and just wants to sit in silence. Seeing someone else sit next to me and just sit there is very reassuring to me. I'm gonna tie this into a situation that happened with my friend. My best friend, 7 years. She was my ride or die. Did everything with her. Was like family to me. Knew her family extremely well. She committed suicide at the age of 22, and she was alone, and she had no one beside her. And so I'm 30 years old now. This happened 7 years, a few years ago. When it comes to being alone and feeling that way, I blame myself for that sometimes. Like I blame myself for not being there for her. Not feeling, not being there for her when she needed it. And I wish people can also understand too, like when it comes to that stuff, like sometimes we don't know what's wrong ourselves. And I'm kind of blabbering here, kind of going all over the place. I apologize.
No need. Take your time. Take your time.
When it comes to my friend and trying to tie that into, just being alone and everything, it's like I wish I was there for her. And I blame myself for not being there. So that's like, someone that's going through something, be there for that person. Be there. Because sometimes that's all they need is someone to be there to prevent them from doing something permanent to a temporary problem.
Would you say that's the best thing to do for someone who's struggling? Just being there with somebody?
Is sometimes, yeah, I would absolutely agree. Sometimes people don't want that. It just depends it varies from person to person. But I do say it does help, just sometimes we don't know what we want. We don't know what will help, and sometimes just sitting there, just waiting for a response or just keeping the person company. Sometimes that's all it takes. Like I said, sometimes we don't know what will help because we have all these things going through our mind. We don't know what's going to stop it. We don't know what's going to help. And sometimes we don't communicate that in the best way. I haven't. I've snapped. I've yelled. I've cussed. I've been rude because people ask me, how can I help you? And I'd yell at them and be like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to help. And sometimes just having that company it's soothing. It's very reassuring.
So in the regard of mental well-being and mental health, what are the stereotypes or misconceptions about it that frustrate you the most?
Well, for me, the biggest one is the depression. One is that we're always sad and that we're always suicidal. That's the one that really gets my blood boiling because it's like, No, we're not always suicidal, and not everyone that's depression self-harms. Like for myself, yeah, I've done that myself, but I know people that have severe depression that haven't self-harmed, that just have the depression, not just have the depression, but you know, don't go down that road of self-harming. And I know of people that have gone as far as attempting, suicide, myself included, and it's not, and also it's like we're doing this for attention. No, we're not. It's hard. People need to realize that life is hard. And there are a lot of us that don't have, that weren't dealt with a good hand in the beginning. I wasn't, I was not dealt a good hand at all. But it's what you do that makes the most of it. It's what you do with that hand is what matters. Sure, you weren't dealt with a good hand growing up. Sure, you weren't this, that, or the other. But what are you going to do next? What are you going to do with that? Something that's been helping me lately is stop dwelling on the past, because you can't change that. It's already happened. Can't dwell on the future because it hasn't happened yet. There's no point in stressing out about something that hasn't happened. And I get anxiety. I understand that wholeheartedly. I do. But it's something that has helped with my anxiety, is realizing deep breaths, breathing, realizing that the future hasn't happened yet. It's not as scary as it seems. Past has already happened, and that, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to change that. But focusing on the right here, right now, is what matters most. Because life's going to move on regardless, on if we move with it. And I'm sure none of us want to, none of us want to go through life and then be on our deathbeds and being like, well, I could have felt this way. I could have not been so dwelled on the past. I wish I wasn't so dwelled upon the future. And it's, just dwelling on the right here, right now, the very present. The little moments are what matters. Loving the little moments, regardless of how small or big they are. Cherish those. Because sometimes that's all we have to get us through the day. It's what I've had for the longest time, is realizing that these little moments matter.
I do believe that as well. I mean, you carry some really good wisdom. You leave me speechless. Like, I don't even know how to continue this. Like, dang. Well, okay. You already explained. You're explaining a lot. Holy smokes.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. You don't need to apologize. I want to ask, how do you maintain your well-being now after everything you've undergone to? Of course, you explained a little bit about how you'd like to focus on the present and the now. But what other things would you say that you do to maintain that for yourself?
Well, before I got here in VR chat, I did something called box breathing. Box breathing is when you would inhale for 4 to 5 seconds, hold it for 4 to 5 seconds, and then push it out for 4 to 5 seconds. And you do a repetition of that 3 to 4 times. And on the very last breathe out, you let all the air that's in your lungs and you push it out. It's very therapeutic. It's very stress relieving. And oh my gosh, like your brain feels lighter. You could think, like you could breathe, and it's just like, it's that fresh breath of air. Even if it's for a second, even if it's for a minute, it's so relieving to feel that. And I've only been on VR chat for 4 to 5 months. And when it comes to, meeting people and stuff, which is another thing that I've started to do because of my anxiety, I wanted to meet people. I wanted to talk to people. But I can't really go outside and do that because of my anxiety. I don't do well in social situations. Like, if this were in real life, you were sitting there, I was sitting here, you wouldn't hear a peep out of me. I can guarantee you that. But when it comes to VR chat, it's the reason why I got VR chat is because so I can make friends and be social and learn how to socialize. And now, if I were to do a podcast with you, if it was our real life, absolutely I could sit down and have a conversation with you. But when it came before all that, 5 months ago, you wouldn't hear a word out of me. I wouldn't even approach you. I was very shy. I had a lot of anxiety. And VR chat has really helped a lot. And I've met some of the coolest people here in VR. I actually met my boyfriend here on VR. So we just made it official on the 11th of this month. So it's very nice. It's really cool. It's really cool. So
Now that you mentioned VR and how it actually helped you, I want to know how was your exposure to VR, your first exposure? How did you get yourself in VR in the first place?
One of my IRL best friends, who I've known him for, God, I've known him forever. It feels like he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. He had VR and he had a headset. And I'm like, man, I want to get on VR. I want to see what this is about. I ended up getting money to do so, and I got my first headset. And I was a questie for a bit. And then one of my other friends who I met here on VR chat had a PC. And I could never see their avatars. I'm like, I want to see your avatars. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to buy a PC. Bought myself a PC. Same friend ended up getting full body tracking. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get full body tracking. And it's financially it's rough, but it definitely has helped me with my mental health and meeting friends and stuff. Like, even on Discord, like, I've been in groups I met through VR chat, and we'll video call and talk and crack jokes at each other. And I've met some of the coolest people here, and it has drastically helped my mental health. Like, even going to a world where you could just sit down and meditate and breathe is so relaxing. You have the ambiance of the sounds and the nature, the rain, the birds that are chirping, and it's just relieving. It's so peaceful, and it's so nice to be able to have that peace of mind of sitting down, breathing, meditate. Life's gonna be okay. It may not be okay right now, it may not be okay for a while, but it will get better. And is a beautiful thing to feel.
So VR provided you with a sense of community and belonging.
100%. 100%. Like, I definitely felt like I belong. And since me being on VR, I've actually looked into making music and learning how to do avatars and textures and assets and everything like that. Like, I've been wanting to explore so much hobbies that I never thought I'd want to do within VR. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, with the music making, I wanted to be a VR DJ. Like, I would love to do music like make music, like EDM music, and put on a rave for people with the music I make. Because I've seen clubs do that, and I've seen people do that here in VR chat. And I'm like, man, that looks like fun. That looks like so much fun. And I've learned so many different coping skills with being here and talking to people and breaking that barrier of the anxiety, social anxiety of, hey, these people are going to hurt you. These people are here to not, not their friend. Breaking through that barrier, because yeah, sometimes that's true, but sometimes you got to push through that barrier and say, hey, not everyone's like that. And since doing that, I have over 1,000 friends here on VR chat. And I've only been on VR chat for about 4 or 5 months, and I already have over 1,000 friends on VR chat. Maybe that's because I'm becoming too friendly. I don't know, but.
So, do you think that online communities can play a meaningful role in mental well-being?
In certain aspects, yes. If they're used in the right way, absolutely. For me, I don't go to Publix. Like, you got to be smart about it. Like, you don't go to be public instances where there's trolls, or there are people there purposely to cause a problem. That's why I only go into age verified services or instances, because I know I can actually talk to people and not have someone come up to me and be disrespectful. Sometimes that happens, sure. But the chances of it happening, not very likely. But absolutely, I do feel like if it's done in the right way, in the correct way, it definitely would. I definitely highly recommend people to get out there and the people to open up and talk to people. And yeah, there are going to be people that you're going to meet on here that are mean and rude and don't want what's your best interest. And a lot of people that I've met, not a lot, but there are a few people that I've met that are there for and putting on a front. They'll fake who they are, and behind closed doors they're a completely different person. We just gotta watch out. VR chat can definitely help, but it'll also help the person who is looking for a sense of belonging to not entirely put their wall down. Because I still have my wall up. My barrier is still up. It's not up all the way, but it's also not all the way down. I keep my barrier up for those that are going to cause a problem, going to cause an issue.
But at the same time, your VR self is not that different from your real self. Are you still the same person, or what would be the difference between your VR self and your real self?
With me personally, what you see here is what you get. I'm here to make genuine connections. I'm here to make friends. I'm not here to be fake with people. Because if I do that, I'm going to be hurting myself and lying to myself, and I'm also lying to the people around me. And then that's going to make me feel horrible. And I don't like to feel that way. What you see right here is what you get. And for those that don't like me for who I am, it's not my problem. Because this is who I am. And I've been told I'm a pretty nice individual. I'm a nice person. If that's not your thing, there's the door. That's all I'm going to say about that. Like, I've learned after caring so long about what people thought about me, I've genuinely it got to the point where I'm just like, their opinion sucks. It doesn't matter to me. Well, I don't care about what they say about me. And that's something I struggled with for a long time, is self-image, my self-esteem. And I had to realize that it doesn't matter it doesn't matter about looks. If you're a good person, you're going to attract the right people. If there's, kind, genuine person who has the best interest for friends and people, you're you're gonna start attracting the right people. And sometimes people are gonna walk over you because you're nice, and that's happened to me multiple times. But you know, you got to learn to stand your ground, and that's something at 30 years old, I'm still struggling with. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Caring about what people say about me, it's just their opinion. Is it true? No. Why let it bother you? There's an old saying that my family used to tell me. It was a pretty common saying. Let it roll off your back. If it ain't you, let it roll off your back. It shouldn't matter to you.
That's a good piece of advice. What parts of your journey do you think are important for people to understand?
Knowing that I'm wiser than I look. I'm wiser than I portray myself, and I know things because of the things I've been through. And I wish people would understand that, because I've had people look at me and be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what I'm going through." I may not know exactly what you're going through, and I may not be able to relate at all. But no, I'm here for people, and I'm here to help, and that I'm caring. I'm a genuine person, and because of the things I've been through and the trials and tribulations I've been through, I don't want anyone else to go through those. I don't want people to hurt. I don't like people get hurt. If I don't know you, I don't care. If I see you're hurting, I'm gonna walk up to you and be like, "Hey, do you mind if I sit here? Looks like you can use some company." And life is rough, and realizing that, not all of us have life handed on us on a silver platter. But because of my life not being given to me on a silver platter, has made me wise. And I know a thing or two when it comes to struggle.
We're almost at the end point. I have 2 questions just to finish our session here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to ask each of them in order. First off, what would you like listeners to take away from your story? From everything, from beginning to end.
It's not what was included in my story. It's what can be learned from that. Is the story of a rough beginning, but in time it does get better. But it's not just time, it's effort. You gotta put in that effort. You gotta put in that mentality of, I am tired of living in this vicious mental cycle. I'm tired of doing the same repetitive things over and over and over again. You gotta stop the brain from doing that. And it takes practice, it takes time. And within that effort and within that time, life does get better. 100% it will. Like I said earlier, it may not get better tomorrow. It may not get better from a year from now. But not giving up is what matters. Don't want to make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And if I could save one person from doing that, if I could, touch someone's heart just by my story and the things I've been through, then cheers. Here's to a good rest of your life. Here's to the now. And for those that are listening, if you're struggling and you're still here, and yeah, you may be struggling, but you're still here, I'm proud of you. Something that I never was told growing up. But if you're struggling, you're still here. You're still fighting. And so I'm proud of you for that.
Final question. And this is something that I ask everybody that comes here at the Pier, because it's a VR podcast. And I like to motivate others to get themselves interested in the technology that is VR. The VR market has had its ups and downs. Some VR communities have been shut down fairly recently, like Rec Room and even Meta Horizons is not looking that bright. And so I want others to actually see a future in VR. So if you could talk to that person, the person that has not gotten themselves invested in VR, who doesn't have a headset, who's still hesitant, if you could tell something to that person, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them, like, hey, I just tell them the things I've said. Like, I met some of the closest people I call friends here on VR chat. I met my boyfriend here on VR. You find a sense of belonging, and you find a sense of, being a part of something, bigger. And highly recommend, and if this person's going through it, get a VR headset. Even if you don't have a headset, download it on the computer, download it on a laptop. You can be you can be desktop user for a while and still get the same result.
Well, thank you, Dr. Zaya, for coming here and being here with us with the Pier. It has been a really interesting and really just in-depth conversation in general. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story. And to our lovely audience tuning in, thank you again for watching another episode of Pier-to-Pier Podcast, where we bring those who reside within the virtual worlds so they can come and tell their stories and share the knowledge that they carry. May you all have a wonderful rest of your day.